Here we go.
All right.
Okay.
All
Here we
right.
go.
Let me
Okay.
let me do a little invitation here. Welcome to Meet the Author Online with Philip Shamas and William Peters, aka Just Bill. Philip is a first-time author, and his book, Bless You, Father, for You Have Sinned, recounts his journey from a childhood which was pretty much shattered by clerical pedophilia into a career as a teacher, an administrator, and a person who works with youth and has worked with youth over many years as a mentor and instructor, and whose aim at this point is to write more books and um, to create a chat line, an online resource for other victims of pedophilia. And Bill is the founder and the publisher of Inner Child Press. He is a poet, he is a world traveler, he is a world peace advocate, and has spent many, many years collecting um, wonderful poetry from people all around the world and in creating beautiful anthologies of this work. So, gentlemen, carry on.
Well, thank you, Valentine. Philip, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. I'm blessed to be here. Blessed to be here. Okay, so I guess we're going to just jump right on into it. Um, Philip, Valentine gave a brief introduction, but if you would, could you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Well, I grew up in Roswell, New Mexico. I went to school there all the way through high school. I attended the University of New Mexico
Mhm.
and also University of Phoenix. Um, and that's where I got most of my training for my roles as a principal and as a teacher. And that way, I learned how to communicate with children in a positive manner. I was married at one time in my life. I have 5 children who I love very dearly. And basically, that's it in a nutshell.
Okay. I noticed in your bio, uh, 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 even though in its brevity, a large amount of it dealt with your role as an educator, in various levels of the education system. What kind of led you down that path? Was it something that was natural for you to want to educate, to want to interact with people at that level, or is it something? Was it say a parent's dream, like you're going to grow up and be a teacher? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the reason I got into education is because I always admired teachers from the time I was a young kid. And I always wanted to be in the classroom and leading.
Okay.
That's why I went into teaching, is because it's a passion of mine.
Okay. Fair enough. Do you still have that passion, or have you retired it as well?
No, the passion is still there. Uh,
Okay.
I kind of like to expand it out to where we're helping children that have had the same problems as I had and take it from there.
Okay. Okay. So I take it that you're still active to some degree in your local or expanded community, filling that role of teaching, instructing, lending a hand, being an empath, and those type of things.
Right.
You got to give me more than one word answers there, Philip. We got a couple hours to fill up. But forgive me. So we're going to join. So we're just going to be here, everybody. We're just going to have some fun. And if you're watching, if you have any questions you'd like to type into the chat, if you're watching, feel free to do so, and we'll field them to our guest author, Philip. Is it a middle B? What's the B stand for?
Bushada.
Say again.
Bushada.
Bushada. That's an unusual name. Where does that come from?
It's from Lebanon. It's Lebanese.
Oh, okay. Okay. Is that your heritage? You're Lebanese?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. Have you ever been there?
You've never been there?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful place.
I said, have you ever been there?
Have I? No, I haven't ever been there. I would love to go. I have a lot of family over there.
Oh, really? Really? Well, we should have met earlier. I was blessed to have visited Lebanon back in 2018. And one of my inspirations, early on inspirations for writing, was Gibran Khalil Gibran. I got to visit his childhood home, which is now a museum. You know what? It's a beautiful country. You know, along with the ruins of Baalbek and whatever. But it's a very, very beautiful country for the most part. Well, I hope you get to see it one day. You know, reconnect with your roots.
It was nice being with you. Go ahead.
No, you got the floor.
It would be nice to reconnect with my roots. I would love to see my family overseas in Lebanon.
Okay.
But I haven't quite made it over there yet. It's still on my bucket list to do.
Okay. Great, great. Do you speak the language?
No, I did at one time, and my grandmother passed away, and I forgot it all because nobody would speak to me in Lebanese.
Oh, okay. So in your household, for you coming up, you had the influence of your grandparents, or was it just your grandmother?
No, my grandfather and my grandmother.
Okay. And so did you grow up in a multi-generational household?
Yes, for a while.
Okay. Isn't that so wholesome, healthy, to have those particular type of memories, and I take it your grandparents spoke Lebanese, the whole time. So you said you lost it, huh?
Yeah, I did. But
Okay.
I used to be able to understand it more than speak it.
Okay.
It's a difficult language to learn.
Yeah. 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 So while we're talking about your childhood, Philip, I know that your book, and I'm going to hold it up for those that are not familiar with it. It's titled "Bless You, Father, for You Have Sinned." Okay, and this is the new book by Philip. But a large amount of the book deals with your childhood, and your reflections and memories, and stories from your childhood. So tell us a little bit about your childhood. Kind of shape for us, what type of childhood do you remember? I'm not going to say did you have, but do you remember? What is the lasting impressions, of your childhood?
Well, I think that I had a pretty good childhood. My grandfather owned grocery stores that my father actually took over. And so I really don't think I had the want for anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
I was very fortunate. And,
Okay.
and through that fortunate ability, I was able to reach out to other people and help them along also.
Okay. So I take it you also grew up in New Mexico?
Yes, I grew up in Roswell.
So here is a typical question I ask. All of us are, say, the product of immigrants one way or the other. How did a family come from Lebanon and wind up in New Mexico?
That's what I'd like to know, and I never could get my grandfather to answer me.
I mean, it wasn't like there were buses and trains and planes back in those days. But that's always an oddity to me. You go in the middle of our country or some weird place, some offshoot place, and you find somebody with some strong cultural and ethnic background, and they say, well, how did that work out that you wound up in this place of all places, But that's interesting. And so New Mexico, what part of New Mexico did they wind up in?
I'm living in Albuquerque right now.
Albuquerque?
Yeah.
Okay, is that where you grew up in Albuquerque?
No, I grew up in Roswell, New Mexico.
Roswell.
Right.
Okay, so that's where all the stories from Area 51 and all that uh, originates from, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, let me ask you a strange question. Now I have to ask it since we mentioned Roswell. Have you seen anything strange coming out of the sky and landing in the desert?
No, but I did see a UFO when I was uh, at a conference in Santa Fe, and
Okay,
everybody thought I was crazy, and I described the ship and the way it was shaped and everything, and I knew that it was a UFO.
okay,
Did it
okay.
scare me? No, it didn't scare me. I was just fascinated by it.
Yeah. Well, it's odd. Here we are, 2025, and it's a little easier to say those things than it was, say, like maybe 30, 40, 50 years ago. Things like that we keep to ourselves because people would have looked at us strange. But we're finding there's a lot more stranger things in our lives that we're not aware of. But that must have been really a life altering, if you would, thing to see something like that.
Well, yeah, it can be. It depends on your mental state and where you're at in
Okay.
your life.
Okay. 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 So let's talk about your book. Okay. And you entrust this publication to our dear friend Valentine, um, of Winds of Change Press, Oriented Healing International. And I got to say a little bit about Valentine, so she's not going to say anything about herself. Valentine and I have been friends for quite a number of years, which I was first attracted to her work, and I forget the title of the book, but it was a very, very enchanting book about, I guess, the Native American culture, written in a fictional type of setting. Um, and since then, for some reason, our spirits just kind of clicked, and here we are. Fast forward, I guess it's been about 15, 16 years or more now,
Well,
Valentine.
the book was The River Goddess and Other Stories,
Mm-hmm.
and it was local. It was about a kid growing up in Tasuki.
Mm-hmm.
What shall we call them? Her intuition, her magical powers, whatever it is she developed that enabled her to communicate with all beings.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. And it's
Okay.
it's been a good long time, Bill. I think
Yeah.
it's definitely ever since, no, maybe 2010,
Yeah. I saw
2010.
you. I said about 15 years.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Time flies. So, I kind of, I'm the type of person, I don't think anything is, well, there's a lot of accidents and there's a lot of things that are on purpose. And there's a lot of things we don't understand why and how and when and where the connections came. But here we are, three people, from three varying backgrounds, and again, Phil, let me say it's an honor to meet you because you're connected to somebody who I'm connected to. So I imagine there's a common spirit that's working in the three of us. So tell us a little bit about, because I'm curious, so maybe I'm doing this for my own edification. Tell us a little bit about your connection to this wonderful lady, our host, Valentine.
Well, I was looking for a therapist and I was perusing the internet, looking around
Mm-hmm.
for one, and I just liked uh, Valentine's bio. So I contacted her, and that's where we've been. It's been, um, I don't know how many years, 4 or 5 years.
Well, 3 or 4 anyway.
Yeah. So I've got to know her pretty well, and she's gotten to know me pretty well. And I enjoy my time with her because she does bring out she keeps me right at the ship rather than going off in the wrong direction. She kind of steals me back to where I need to
Okay.
be.
Okay. Would you say she's more of a motherly type of 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 therapists, or is she more of, your best friend holding your hand and walking along with you?
I would say she's more of the motherly type.
Motherly type? Okay. I had to ask that because I don't get that from her. And that's interesting, the difference in the relationships. For me, it's like the best friend holding my hand, holding each other's hand, and walking and discovering things as we go along. But that's very, very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. So let's talk about the early on influences and what impact they may have had that led to this. If you had to sum it up in, what influencing factors got you to the point of writing a book?
Well, I had a person in Houston that always used to talk to me about writing a book and about my travails through the pedophilia and how it affected me and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I basically got started. She planted the seed in me, and then it grew from there. I've been thinking about writing a book about this happening to me and to thousands of other people. And from that, I hope to, like I said, I'm in the vein that I want to help other people. So that's basically why I wrote the book too, was so that they could have something to focus on.
Okay. Do you find that the writing or the process of writing the book has been cathartic for you? Do you find that it has been empowering for you as well?
Well, I'd say a little bit of both, because it was very difficult to write. It brought back a lot of memories and a lot of pain. And so that's why, that's how I ended up with the book.
Okay.
Because of that reason.
Okay. So now that the book's done, do your footsteps feel a little lighter?
Well, yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. Well, that it's commendable. I mean, first of all, it takes, like even the things that I write, whether it's poetry or short stories or whatever, a lot of times you find yourself, challenged, whereas like maybe sensitive topics, sensitive things, you don't want to divulge, or you got to find the right words and phrasing to put it in a way that doesn't make you feel as vulnerable or whatever. So I commend you because of the topic of your book. Does take a lot of courage to write and to put your name on it and say, okay, here it is, this is my experience. And I think from what I'm hearing, that your motivation is of how it may contribute to the journey of other people as they're going through or have been through similar situations or circumstances. Okay. I know you touched on it briefly, but in your mind, and I'm going to say it in different ways, in your mind, number one, as an author, number two, as a human being, and number three, from a very personal perspective, what are your aspirations for this book? What do you hope this book accomplishes?
Well, I hope it accomplishes that. It gives some people the confidence to know to reach out to me or to us whenever that gets off the ground. And I'm hoping that for a lot of people, that it's a book that they can pick up and read and think, aha, I'm not the only one
Okay.
it's happened to.
Yeah. And you said you work with others, or you're hoping to establish a foundation that will work with others that are experiencing similar circumstances?
Right. Uh-huh.
Okay. Is this on a local level in the Albuquerque area, or is it expanded beyond that?
I want to start out in the Albuquerque area and then expand from there.
Okay.
It's a labor of love.
Yeah, yes, it is. Valentine, is there anything that you wanted to ask, or
Well, I love it, Philip. If you would say a little bit about before you actually got involved in going back to school and determined that you were going to become a teacher and administrator, you had a lot of other very interesting adventures, in Colorado and places like that. And you did a lot of different kinds of things. And I feel that whatever we do, I always feel, that spirit has a plan. And no matter what it looks like, from the outside or even from the inside, I feel that everything turns out the way it's supposed to. And so to me, all of the experiences you shared with me have become a part of who you are and the little tiny bit of you that appears in this book. So it'd be great if you'd share some of that, with Bill and with anybody else, who might be listening at the moment, because I just think it matters. People go around all the time saying things like, oh, why did this happen to me? Why did God do this? Why this? Why that? And we may not know, but honestly, God or spirit or, creator or whatever you want to call that being, Allah, has a plan. And even Art Linkletter said, things turn out okay for people who are okay with the way things turn out. So,
There you go.
just share a little bit of that other part of your experiences, that other part of your life, with Bill and with us, and, get to know a little bit more about you.
Well, I am a very spiritual person myself. I don't like to say that out loud because I feel like that your spirituality is something that is for just for you and not for anybody else. And that is the way that you communicate with higher power is through your just goings on about every day that you have different experiences. And I've always believed that you learn from those experiences. And I also believe, and this really gets under a lot of people's skin, that I believe that you create your own reality. And so that's one of the reasons why that I wanted to write this book too. I plan on writing another book, but I haven't decided what to write on. And this one is still hot, and I want to keep it going until I can get established everything that I want to get established to make people's lives better.
Now you touched on writing, and when we talk about writing, that's something I've been pretty much doing all of my ancient life. Tell me a little bit, because the story that you're sharing, I imagine, as we touched on earlier, at some point in time had to be a little challenging or difficult to get out on paper, express, or to tell a story without becoming convoluted. Tell us about your writing process. We know of your inspiration, because we know of the story, but tell us about your writing process. Are you the type that sits down and just kind of pours out, or how long did it take you to write the book, first of all? Okay.
It took me about a year to write the book.
A year? But I guess I would imagine many, 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 many more years of inspirations prior to you picking up the pen.
Oh yeah, that's true. I was
Yeah.
always told by my teachers that I had a gift of writing.
Okay.
So something I never pursued until, like I said, when I had the therapist in Houston, Kathy, is the one that really talked me into thinking about writing a book.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so she was very inspirational at that point.
Okay.
And then Valentine got a hold of it, and she ran with it there and really encouraged me to write the book. So
Okay. 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 So what is your writing process? Are you the type of person that goes in your study? It looks behind you, and what I'm seeing looks like you're in a study or some type of, personal space, that's influenced by literary things. And I see a cup of pencils and pens behind you on your, that would be your left. Are you the type of person that has to go into a space such as that, get out the pen and paper or the device or however you write, before you can write? Or are you the type of person that's sitting at the restaurant and writing on dinner napkins?
Well, I mean, we have an author that did that, and she was homeless for a while, and now there's all sorts of stuff out that has her brand on it.
Mm-hmm.
She was very fortunate. She wrote on napkins and any paper that she could get a hold of, because she really didn't have the money to buy any paper, which I can understand. And she took her brand and ran with it, and has become super, super popular now, to the point they even have an amusement park with her theme based.
Okay. So I would imagine, if you could, who are the writers that influenced you coming up? Who did you like to read, for example?
Well, I like to read a lot of different authors and publishers, and I don't really recall what I've read and who I've read, because I've read so much that it all kind of blends them together.
Fair enough.
And getting back to the other question, I'm the type of person that I can sit down and it just flows through me.
Okay.
And that's the way I start writing. I write an outline and then revise that outline and look it over and make sure that I have in my mental capacities that which I want to, that's what I want to write about.
Okay. So let me ask you a question, and this is more of a personal question for me. Are you the type of person that wakes up and say, okay, I have a writing session scheduled for 11 a.m., and then you go write? Or are you more, spontaneous, like something taps you on the shoulder and says, okay, Philip, time to go write? I mean, tell us a little bit about, that evolution of you going from, thought to paper.
Well, I really believe that my style is just wait for the tap on the shoulder. And
okay, fair enough.
I believe that this is all spiritual too.
Okay.
And I believe that this book had to be written because there's hundreds of thousands of people throughout the world that have experienced what I've experienced. And it's not it's not something that you should be ashamed of. It's something that you should work on and heal yourself, because apparently there's some kind of divine mission somewhere that pedophilia had to be a part of my mission, even though it made my life very difficult.
Now I'm gonna lean back and regress a bit. A little earlier I insinuated or touched on relationship, and we talked about the relationship between you and Valentine. So this next line of questioning is, pick your head up, Valentine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this next line of questioning is directed at you. If you can tell us a little bit about how your relationship as friend, therapist, and consequently publisher developed with Philip, and what your vision is for Philip, with Philip, and going forward, what do you see coming down the road?
Sure. I'm not sure what I see coming down the road, but what I saw and what I myself have experienced and have seen help maybe many other people that I've worked with is the simple fact that if you can get the thoughts, the squirrel cage, the hamster wheel or whatever it is of thoughts and memories and pain out of your head and into expression, any kind of expression whatsoever, whether you're writing or dancing or singing or making movies or whatever, knitting, it doesn't make any difference. Any expression that is creative, that moves your thoughts from your body, from your mind through your body to the outside world, then it's very healing. And so that was the reason I started actually suggesting that Philip keep a journal. I don't know if he did. I told him if he did, it would be his. I didn't want to or need to see anything. I just said, just write it down, see how it feels. And I don't know if he did, but maybe about a year and a half or a little bit more, I guess, into the time that we worked together, I started thinking, well, why not a book? And so I held out a carrot and I said, I tell you what, if you write this book, I'll publish it for you.
Oh, okay.
And
Interesting.
so, and I knew too, as he himself says, that this would be really important, that it wouldn't just be helpful for one person, but could be helpful for many people, And
Yeah.
so I just kind of went that way. What I hope this book does is everything that Philip hopes for. And what I personally hope for is that it will help other people, and I do believe it will. And I believe as those people are helped, that will really even help Philip more.
Yeah.
I agree with him that there is a reason. I've had difficult things in my life as well. And there has been a reason, as far as I could tell, for each of them. Because without them, I wouldn't be where I am now. I wouldn't learn what I have learned. I wouldn't know what I know. I hope there are not going to be too many more difficult things. I'm getting to be an old lady here, so I suppose there's not that much time. But, if there are, then I know Spirit will guide me through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Spirit always has.
Yeah.
And I think that was maybe the primary inspiration behind this whole thing. Spirit guiding me and then pushing me to suggest these things to Philip. I don't know. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, it gives us insight, which is great for the casual. See, I pretty much, I know you because I've known you for a long time. So I know all this, but I don't know the relationship between you and Philip and how that developed. And, we know that it eventually manifested into a book and consequently an interview here. So I understand all that, but I think for the casual listener or the person that sees the video or listens to the video, that perhaps they'll get or receive an understanding that, a lot of things that are unseen are connected, whether we see them or not.
Always.
And those connections manifest into something, whether we understand what it manifested into or not. Which is kind of a kismet, I guess you could call it. You're talking about the difficult things, and what came to my mind was, about difficult things, in essence, are lessons. That doesn't mean we learn them, but still they're lessons to be learned or what have you, or to be passed on. So I find all this, Yeah. And by the way, Philip, I'm a spiritualist as well. I'm not. I don't practice any particular religion or whatever, but I believe in reverence and spirituality, and I think that's the connection that Valentine and I had, as well. But I thank you, Valentine, for sharing that.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
I know. So, Bill, we touched on a lot of things. Is there anything that is leading your spirit to want to speak on, during this opportunity, take the opportunity to speak on?
Well, I just want people to know that this has happened to, that there is help out there, and that they can reach out at any time and discuss what they're feeling and what has happened in their lives. I mean, like me, for instance, when that happened to me, it just destroyed my interconnectedness with other individuals because I didn't trust anybody. And trust has been a big thing in my life to make sure that I don't surround myself with people that are going to put me down or hurt me.
Hmm.
And I feel that there's a lot of people that, and I mean a lot, that get into situations and relationships which aren't healthy for them because their compass was all screwed up because of what happened to them. And what interests me is a lot of people blame themselves.
Mm.
And I don't know why they would do that with their blaming themselves, but I mean, I know that I processed that I was really a strong Catholic and I wanted to be a priest and go on from there and hopefully go up the ranks of the Catholic Church. But after that happened to me, it just destroyed me. And I was serving Mass for the poor clerics in Roswell, New Mexico. And then all of a sudden, I just changed. And the sisters kept asking me, "What's the matter with you? What's wrong with you? You're not your silly old funny self." And I wouldn't answer them. I just said, "Oh, I'm just dealing with something." And that's a pretty heavy burden for somebody that's 12 years old to carry.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I could say something here,
Sure.
in my work with other people who've had this sort of experience, whether it happened to them in childhood or later, I think that one of the common feelings is, I must have done something to cause this. This has got to be my fault on some level. And it never is. There is no such thing as being at fault for whatever other people are doing to you. You know, everybody has choice, including the people we will call perpetrators. They have a choice. They don't have to be that or do that.
Right.
And the fact that they do choose it does not make you a bad person. You are a person who did not at the time have the power. This is how I feel about it. Have the power to do anything about it. You know, maybe you were too young. Maybe you were too scared. And I have spoken with other people who were abused as children, and women and men both, who have been abused in various ways years later, and not necessarily through some sort of sexual assault, but anything. I work with people who have PTSD. I know veterans and all of these folks, and everybody who has got PTSD is also somehow feeling guilty for whatever. And I'm just telling you, guilt is a useless emotion. It doesn't accomplish a thing. And as far as God is concerned, you are guilt-free. There is nothing you have done that is wrong, ever. So that, you know, is a message that I hope will be included in people's understanding of Philip's book, this particular book, and anything else that he writes.
You know, and to add one thing, you know, we talked about guilt. Guilt, as well as fear, is a very effective societal tool to keep our spirits, to keep us oppressed, suppressed, and repressed, you know, from living and being our best and expressing our best selves.
Yeah. Exactly. Fear. If you look at the letters, spell it out, FEAR, false evidence appearing real.
Yeah. There you go. I like that. Okay. So, you know, this is turning out to be a very, very therapeutic session, you know, for me, even though, you know, there's no commonality in reference to my experience versus Philip's. But, you know, with you sitting up there, you know, as the capstone, as the therapist, you know, it kind of comes all together.
I want to be the publisher.
But still, I mean, everything has its purpose, you know. Philip comes, he has a story, he's the author, you know, and his experiences are, different from ours, but common to all of ours, So anybody that has an opportunity to listen, realize the last thing we were talking about, fear, doubt, worry, guilt, and those particular type of emotions that are fed to us, and very effectively. And I would say that everyone, to some degree, has something, dealing with those particular type of, I wouldn't call them averses, but, emotions, the
Just
malady.
negative emotions.
Yeah. So, if anything could come of this, not only in reference to the pedophilia, but in reference to just the human genome of, that self-induced, self-deluded suffering, that we put upon ourselves and others, our children, our relatives, our friends, our workplaces, our churches, and what have you. There's a lot of room for, improvement. So it's a great thing to have, Philip, who's, went face to face, head to head with his quote unquote, I'm not going to call them demons, but if everybody can give me a little leniency there with the demons that haunt your past, you as a therapist, that makes sense of that. And me, I'm just trying to make it through life, and understand, but, great session. Great session. So, I guess we're pretty much coming close to, wrapping this up. But I think one question I like to ask, and this probably lends itself more to the combination of being a publisher, as well as, the potential therapeutic aspects and the challenges of being a writer, or a published author, of getting people to quote unquote pay attention. Getting, one of our challenges I always say is getting people to read. And it's funny where we live in an environment, where, our primary sense is visual. They say what smell and taste are even stronger, but it's kind of hard to taste words. It's kind of hard to smell them. But, we have these YouTubes, we have the social media, and everything is visual and, instant reaction to things. Whereas the pleasure of picking up a book, sitting down next to a fireplace or with a cup of tea or whatever, in a nice quiet place and flipping through the pages of a book, seems to be a dying, I won't say art, but we could call it art. Do you have any visions, Philip, in reference to how you can get more people to read the story? I know you say you have the foundation you're working on. Is that a vision of yours of how you can get these books more in the mainstream of people to read and react? Do you have any particular insight there?
Yeah, that's one of my goals is to try to get more and more people to read this book, because I really do believe that through this book it can help you kind of discover your own feelings, or make you realize that you're not the only one that's happened to. And healing comes on one-on-one, but healing also comes in community.
Very good. Very good. Well, not unless anybody has any parting words, why don't we start with our illustrious host, who has provided this platform. Valentine, do you have any questions or closing words you'd like to lend to this?
I think the one thing I'd like to leave people with is this thought. You don't need to reinvent yourself. You don't need to be better than, smarter than, richer than, or whatever than anybody else, because you're perfect as you are. You really are. And if we would just tune into that and let Spirit guide us on that path that was already set up for us before we even came in here into these bodies, then life would probably be really pleasant.
Yeah.
So I think it's something that folks could think about. You know,
We good?
I hope
We
so.
good? And before I wrap it up, Philip, the floor is yours. Is there anything you'd like to leave that we may have missed, or you'd like to leave reinforced words, for the potential listening public?
Well, like I said, I want people to realize that they're not the only one that this has happened to. And hopefully this book can play a bridge into their own self-worth and mental health that will make them kind of realize, well, like I said before, I'm not the only one that this has happened to. And you'd be surprised that the people that try to shove this down inside of them and pretend like it's not there, and that doesn't do anything for you. It destroys you, is what it does.
Okay. Well, I'm going
Bill,
to wrap
what
this.
about you? What are your final comments?
My final comments are coming. I'm going to take a very, very interviewer stance,
Okay.
and leave it at that. But I want to say, first of all, Philip, thank you so much for being here with us. And I want to thank Valentine, McKay-Riddell, and Orient Healing International and the Winds of Change Press for providing this platform where I get to run my mouth and get to meet Philip. It's been I don't know how long we've been doing this, but it's wonderful. But I've been here and I had the opportunity today to talk to Phillip B. Phillip B. Shamas. How do I say Shamas?
Shamas.
Shamas. Phillip B. Shamas on the publishing of his book, Bless You, Father, for You Have Sinned. I know I have a question. Where did that title come from? Bless you, Father, for you have sinned.
Came from spirit. I really want to know the truth.
Okay.
In the Catholic Church, Bill, and I'm a born-again pagan, a recovering Catholic. In the Catholic Church, when you go to confession, the first thing you say to the priest is, "Bless me, Father, for I have sinned."
Right.
And so Philip, I think, very wisely turned it around.
Yeah, the exchange of pronouns, not me, it's you, right?
Yeah, you're the one with the problem, dude.
Yeah. And you make me carry the burden.
Exactly.
Yep. And so interesting. So anyway, I had the opportunity. Again, I want to thank Valentine, for providing this platform. And Philip for, allowing me the opportunity to speak with you. And hopefully we'll see each other sometime in the near future as you start to work on the next book, And
Bill, thank you for being such a wonderful interviewer, bringing so much joy and laughter and fun to this. Yeah. And Philip, thank you for being willing to be interviewed. And I trust this is the first of what I imagine are going to be quite a few interviews.
Yep.
Questions might get tougher, so gird up your loins.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, I thank everybody for those that are listening in, those that will be listening in once we put it up on YouTube, and again, Philip, you are now an official superstar. You have been interviewed.
Not only a published author, but a superstar.
But a superstar. You're now a podcast celebrity.
We will be posting both the YouTube link and also the link to where you can purchase Philip's book.
Right.
So that information.
We'll talk about that, off air, about, developing that. But, Philip, I wish you all the best in your endeavors, going forward, and I hope that you have a tremendous impact on many souls that are in need for clarification, understanding, and again, to learn to trust themselves again, and alleviate themselves of the burden they carry unnecessarily. Thank you again for your work.
Thank you both.
Thank you.